welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. First, thanks for coming to my channel. I appreciate you visiting. Before you leave, if you'd hit the like button, that helps me out a lot. I appreciate it. I wanted to give a special shout out to my patrons over at Patreon. I really appreciate their support, and if you're interested in supporting an independent artist in a similar way, there's a link to it in the description of the video as well. If you don't want to commit to something like that, you can buy me a coffee there as well. There's a link for that as well. So, not required, but appreciated, those of you who've done that. So thank you very much, patrons especially. So, thank you also to all the YouTubers who have been leaving such nice comments. I really appreciate it. Last thing I forget to mention sometimes is I have a website. And if you'd like to buy some of the jewelry that I make here, check it out. Okay, enough self-promotion. Today I thought we could do sort of a tip, sort of a project, and it's been a while, but every once in a while somebody requests that I make them someone's name out of silver, or their initials, or a particularly important date or something, to wear as either a pendant or bracelet. And I wanted to talk about making letters and numbers, particularly letters. They're not as hard as you might think, and sometimes you get some really pretty cool results. So I was going to show you some different kinds of letters you can do, as well as maybe make a little pendant for my wife. So I picked out a stone and made a little tiny bezel for it, so that's ready to go. I just have to make the letters and put them all together. So let's get started. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to show you how to make like a little pendant that has someone's name on it, and I'm going to do my wife's name, Edie. It's E-D-I-E. She gets called Eddie a lot, big surprise. And that's not too hard a one to do, and most letters aren't really too hard to do, especially if you do block kind of letters. But it's surprising, you can get some pretty interesting looking fonts just out of silver wire if you do a little bit of shaping, a little bit of flattening in spots, flaring, things like that. So before we get started on the actual piece that I'm going to make for my wife, I made some different styles of letters you can do. This is just about the most basic that you could do, and it's just, I took some 18 gauge wire and shaped it into a cursive E, and then flattened parts of it. Okay, you could have also just bent this so it was a single pinch instead of overlapping like I did there. But either way, sometimes little things like that, if you put a little bail on it, or mount it on something else. This one probably wouldn't work for a charm bracelet because it would catch on everything, but if you put it in a circle or something, it would. So those are some real simple letters you can do that are kind of cursive. Go with real traditional block letters like this E, and that's just 16 gauge square wire that I soldered together and then filed down after I soldered it all together and trimmed it off. And those are pretty easy to make. This is one where I didn't pickle this long enough yet, but I did just some 18 gauge round wire in an E shape, and then did a border and square wire around it. If you're a big sawer, which I am not, I did this for you just because I know some people like to do this kind of thing. And so I cut out a little kind of cursive-y stylized E out of a piece of 22 gauge. And this one I domed a little bit because I thought that would be kind of a cool thing. You could put a flat back on the dome here, solder it down, and then oxidize inside of it so the E stands out. That would be a really cool way to make it show up really well if it's black background that shows through the shiny silver on the top. So again, apologies for my rough sawing job. But and then finally, this one was just square wire that I flared out in spots and flattened to give it kind of a less perfectly rectangular look, more of a stylized E, and then soldered it down to a piece of sheet. So, and then once you polish that up, you wouldn't see any of the lines or anything, and it would just look like an E. And you could actually oxidize the sheet a little bit to make it stand out more, and that would look really nice, I think. I was thinking something like this, or like this, would make good charms on a charm bracelet. Even this one too, probably. Probably not those two. Or you can make a little pendant out of those, or specifically these ones. You could do one of those tension bracelets where you have to kind of push it in, and the springiness keeps it clasped there. But that would make a good top for one of those. Or you could spell out a number of things in one or all of these different styles and hang them on a necklace like that to make a word. That would be kind of cool too. There's all sorts of possibilities for this. I think you could make a lot of different ideas. So, but let's go ahead and let's try and make one of these real quick. It honestly didn't take me very long to make all of those before I shot this video. I got kind of a picture. This is similar to the font that we use on my thumbnails on my videos, which I think is called Garland, if I remember right. I made a little bezel for this right here, for the dot on the eye, which is going to have a little cubic zirconia in it. And that's I just pre-made that so we could focus on the letters during this video. But let's go ahead and start making these letters. And E's, I think, for this one, probably I'll cut a piece from here to here. 2 pieces about yay long. One little short one down here. And then I may just take a skinnier piece of wire, like some 16 gauge. I was going to use 14 gauge square out here, and then 16 gauge for some of this. So solder that on there, and then I'll cut off the pieces I need to and then file it. And then we'll start working on the D. I kind of use this as a size gauge too, so I can kind of just eyeball it. I'm always going to cut it a little bit longer than I need for these various components. I'm going to go ahead and file the ends flat. Alright, so I want these to flare to one side, at least all 4 of these pieces. I think those will be the tops and the bottom. This will be the one right here, and this will be the one there. So I need them all to get wider on one side a little bit. So in order to do that, we're going to have to pound them flat a little bit on one side. So there's a little trick you can do to keep from losing these pieces when you need to flatten part of them. I'm not sure where I saw this, but it's a good idea. So whoever came up with this, good idea. Just tape it down with a little Scotch tape, and then it's not going to run away from you. This hammering is therapeutic to get all that angst out. Top and the bottom, I think this is going to be the middle here, so I'm going to neaten this up with the file just a little bit. Just need a little stump here, kind of. So generally, the sooner you get things to stop moving around, the better. This one's still too long. Sometimes if you don't get their proportions right, they look weird. I recognize these are way long right now, so I'll cut those off in a bit. But okay, so I'm going to solder those. Cut some little tiny pieces of solder here. See the kind of thin strips that I'm cutting here. a little bigger on the scale, but that's all right. I'm going to cut these off now. Big face on it. A little piece of 16 around here somewhere. It took me a while, but I found it. I have a little stump left of some 16 gauge square. I don't have much left, so I can't screw up. Just need a little tiny piece for the top. A little tiny piece for the bottom. I think the only other two places I'm going to use this little skinny 16 is right here, right there, so that's probably fine. Okay, let's not lose track of that. Okay. Okay, I still got plenty of solder there, so let's solder these guys up. Jeez, I'm really having trouble holding on to things today. Hear any thumps upstairs today? It's our kitten. It's crazy today. She gets in these playful moods. She's got the zoomies. So we got our little E kind of. Probably need to do a little trimming. Looks like these don't descend as quite that far, so let's take a little bit off there. Alright, I'm going to file it a bit. Alright, that's pretty close. I think I like that. Let's do a D now. So we need a little straight piece. We need a circle, or at least kind of a circle. Let's see if I can pull that off with my round nose pliers and get it. See if I can get a symmetrical one or not. Kind of flatten it back out. Doing that kind of thing. If you need to do any manual adjusting, you use 2 pairs of pliers on these little ones. It's sometimes easier. I was thinking should I leave it in that shape and just kind of solder it that way, or should I make it more round? What should I do? And my brain said, I don't know, play it by ear. It's hard to tell on this one because it's a little bit distorted, because it's square wire. When you try to shape it into a tight circle, will really try to twist on you. And so it's almost impossible to stop that from happening, but you can kind of correct it as it's happening. I'm supposed to flare this a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and solder that. And then it'll be easier to alter things if I need to a little bit. Okay. There we go. Okay, let's see where we're at there. Okay, I'm going to do a little cleanup filing here. Okay, let me do a little with the file. Needs to just be a little thing sticking off the back. All right. Now we need to make an eye. Eye is going to be pretty short. And the last time we'll need to use any of this stuff, which is good because there's not much left. Basically filing the bottom shorter because it looks a little bit smaller on my drawing. I don't always draw something. Sometimes I sit and start messing around and whatever pops out. Now we need to use that little piece of 16 again. Alright, put him together. Then we'll just have the small e to go. kind of like that. So close enough. I think I might try to solder that right there, because I don't want just the bezel, the base of the bezel, holding all the rest of this together. So that would give it a little bit more strength. So I may modify it just a tiny bit. Now we need an E. So I think if we made another circle out of the 14 gauge, that's the way to go. We need to make a little bit bigger one this time. So too big still. That's more manageable. So let's go with that, but gotta cut a segment out of it. Okay. I'll try and get this file. Alright. I might as well use this little skinny stuff for this last part like that. I have to go back. The E is still a little bit big. So now we got to solder it all together. I'm not displeased with that. So let's solder it up. I'm going to cut some more small pieces because I don't know if I have enough left up there. These kind of things can be put inside of frames. You could do a rectangular frame around it or an oval. You could do the letters vertically, like staggered, or I'm doing them kind of cartoonish where they're tilted to each other, but you could probably do it less so. Also, the Garland font is a little bit cartoony. So I think the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook a jump ring over here and a jump ring over here. Should I do it on the back? I think I will. This is a magnesia block. It's soft enough to allow you to push stuff down into it a little bit. This way none of my pieces will go dropping off or anything. Okay, I'm just going to use some little 18 gauge wire. Snip them off a tiny bit. So I'll just sweat some on there, and then I will flux this, and then I'll move this over and heat this thing, and then plop it on there. Perhaps I'll go have dinner while I'm pickling this. Okay, so to the polishing, I filed the bezel down to the size that it needs to be for the stone, or thereabouts. I need to get one of those little sticky wax grabber things. Okay. So I'm going to try and get this tied up against here a little bit. This is a relatively small bezel, and I made it off camera this time because I wanted this to be the focus, be the letters. But I did want to put a little sparkly dot on the eye. So if you want to see how to make a little tiny bezel set faceted stone, I'll put a link up there to a video that shows you a little more detail about that. So sometimes when you're doing this, it tries to tip up one side or the other. This one's small enough to where I may have to use my loop to really be able to tell. So, to finish this, I probably would probably need to hit it with the polisher just one more time. And then I would split a chain and connect it here and here on the back so that it would ride, you know, kind of like that. And if you'd like to see how to do that, I have another video. I'll put a link up there about that. So All right, that's it. I'll try and get a better picture, take it, put it at the end. Okay, well that was the how to do letters video, and I really wanted to say thanks for coming and watching this video. If you would, check out some of my other videos on the channel and maybe subscribe. I think you'll find that there's lots of useful content here for beginners as well as some people who have some more experience than that. Check out my Patreon and my Buy Me a Coffee links, as well as my website link in the video description down below. Thanks for watching. Happy silversmithing. Take care.